Greetings, booktubers, and welcome back to Grammaticus Books. Welcome to a rare book haul edition of Grammaticus Books. I tend not to do very many book haul editions here, videos on the channel, but every now and then when I get enough unusual or interesting items that show up here at Graham's End, South of Shire, I will break down and do a book haul video. And over the past couple of weeks, I have had a large number of interesting and unusual things show up here at the house. So I will go ahead and we're going to do one of our rare book haul videos here today. So let's jump into it. Let's jump right into the book haul, and let's start off with one of the heavy hitters, and that is Swords of the North, a collection of short stories by Robert E. Howard, put together by the Robert E. Howard Foundation. It's from 2023, and this is a fantastic collection of the Cormac MacArt stories by Robert E. Howard and the James Allison stories by Robert E. Howard, plus other material. A fantastic collection here. It has every Cormac MacArt story written by Robert E. Howard in one book for the very first time, whether it was a completed story or just a fragment, and it has every James Allison story, whether a completed story or a fragment, again, collected for the very first time here in this publication by the Robert E. Howard Foundation. This one here, this book has got a wonderful cover by Mark Wheatley. It's a wraparound cover, very atmospheric, very appropriate to Swords of the North and the stories that are contained in here. Now, if you don't know who Cormac MacArt is, he's a Gaelic Celt from Ireland who has been banished from his home of Ireland, and he is taken up with a band of Viking reavers headed up by Wulfhere Skullsplitter. And they take their longship up and down the coast of Arthurian England, and they have all kinds of adventures. He's a very good character by Robert E. Howard. And then the other character that's contained in here is James Allison, and James Allison is one of my favorite non-Conan characters by Robert E. Howard. James Allison is a sickly Texan living in Texas in the 1930s, but he can remember all of his past lives as an Aesir warrior in the Hyborian Age in the Hyborian world. And he recounts these past lives as he's lying on his deathbed in Texas. And they're fantastic. He's traveling with a band of Aesir warriors from Hyboria, and they go all the way across into prehistoric North America. And you have the James Allison, the famous James Allison stories in here, Valley of the Worm, Garden of Fear, and Marches of Valhalla, and all these other short stories that are collected here. Just a tremendous amount of material here that the Robert E. Howard Foundation has put together. And those first three stories there by James Allison, Valley of the Worm, Garden of Fear, and Marches of Valhalla, those are all home runs. And Marches of Valhalla is absolutely one of my favorite Robert E. Howard stories of all time. I would stack it up against almost any Conan story that was ever written by Robert E. Howard. Now, the Robert E. Howard Foundation did send me this book. They reached out to me and they asked me if I would like to order one of their books off of their website. And I said, absolutely. And they said, which one? And without hesitation, this is the volume that I requested because I knew what the content was in it and how great it is. There's 471 pages in here, and it was an absolute must-have for me. If you're a fan of the Robert E. Howard's writings in general, I do highly recommend this book. You can order it off of the Robert E. Howard Foundation's website, or you can go out to Amazon.com and pick it up over there as well. So that's our heavy hitter to kick off the book haul. Let's go on to the rest of the books here. Now, about 2 weeks ago, I made a trip up to Madison, Wisconsin, in particular to a little suburb outside of Madison called Verona. And while I was in Verona, I hit a number of used bookstores, and I found some good stuff. One of the first things I picked up was Jack Vance, The Dying Earth from 1977. This is Pocket Books that put this out, and it has a cover on here by the Hildebrandt brothers, the famous Hildebrandt brothers, doing a cover here for The Dying Earth by Jack Vance, and it's a wonderful cover. I really love this cover a lot, particularly this troll-like being that this hero here is fighting on the cover. Now, this book is also interesting because it's got a cultural artifact contained in the middle of it. A very interesting cultural artifact. It has cigarette ads. And you'll come across these every now and then, these 1970s paperbacks. Kent, the Golden Lights, only 8 milligrams of tar, yet tastes so good you won't believe the numbers. And then on the other side, you've got Newport, alive with pleasure. And these things, these old cigarette commercials, these ads, I should say, they absolutely just slay me. But Dying Earth by Jack Vance, it's one of his most famous, if not his most famous series. And I'm going to have to do a video on The Dying Earth here soon on the channel because there's a right way to read the Dying Earth stories and there's a wrong way to read the Dying Earth stories. This book here collects 6 of those stories, and I'm going to do that video on the right and the wrong ways to read Dying Earth. I'll have to get to that here soon. Then up in Madison, I found a Bertram Chandler science fiction novel, The Way Back. I've not read enough Bertram Chandler. He's an excellent author by all accounts, and this sounded like a very good space opera book here by Bertram Chandler. You've got an interesting little cover here by John Berkey in this Daw 1978 edition. It's a little dark, but it does strike a good mood here for the topic of the book, which is a lost spaceship trying to find its way back to the legend of Earth. It sounds like a good story, and I do plan on reading this one here pretty soon. So that was The Way Back by Bertram Chandler. The next thing that I did is whenever I go into a used bookstore, I always immediately go to the Z's and I look for Roger Zelazny books. And this one jumped out at me. And if there's a Zelazny in there and I don't have it, I immediately pull it off and I throw it in my pile. So I picked up Roger Zelazny's Alien Speedway, but I didn't look closely enough at this book here. It's a Bantam book from 1988, and it's not by Roger Zelazny. It's Roger Zelazny's Alien Speedway, but it is actually book 3 in the Web Cycle by Thomas Wilde. So they tricked me. They tricked me on this one, but it does have a good cover. I do like that cover. It's got a little bit of a speed racer feel to it, and it's by Robert Eagleton. And there's also interior artwork here, line art by Hayashi. It just says Hayashi. I don't know if that's his first name, his last name, or his only name, but you've got some pretty decent line art by Hayashi. I'll show you some of that. And give you one more page here. And what the heck, we'll do the last one as well. So that was a decent find. I'm not sure if I'll read this or not, but I do like that cover a lot, and I will put it in with my Zelazny's, even though it is book 3 by the Web by Mr. Thomas Wilde there. But also in with that little bit of a tease there, that little bit of a trickster of a book, was Roger Zelazny's Damnation Alley. Damnation Alley from 1970. This is a Berkeley Medallion book here with a cover by Paul Lehr, a very 1970s looking cover. Now, Damnation Alley, it has a reputation where a lot of people, they either really like this book or they really dislike this book. I'm about 15 pages into it. I just started reading it. This is my current read that I've got going. So far, at 15 pages in, I'm really liking this book. And I will review this book in its entirety when I finish it. And I actually did go out and see this when it came out in the movie theaters back in the day. I don't remember when that movie theater exactly released, but I had to have been in high school when it came out. And I remember the movie was interesting. It had some good visual effects. It had a really cool machine, this traversing giant tank-like SUV machine that they drive across the wastelands. That was pretty cool. But the movie was kind of, I think it broke down in spots. My recollection is that the movie wasn't that great. Oh, I haven't re-seen it. I haven't rewatched it since I saw it in the theater all the way back, probably some 40 years ago. But so far, I'm digging this, and I will do a review of this, a complete review of this book when I finish it here on the channel. And they had another Roger Zelazny in the bookstores up there in Madison. This is a first printing of This Immortal from 1966. It is his debut novel. It's put out by, who put this out? It's Ace Books. It's a first printing, and it is not a book club edition. It's an actual first printing of Roger Zelazny's debut novel, This Immortal, which tied for the Hugo with Dune in 1966. And I've reviewed this book in its entirety here on the channel. I'll link that down below if you want to go down and check out that video. And this has got a cover on here by Richard Powers. And it's not credited. He's not credited here in the book. And it took some digging to find out who did that painting here. It's a very psychedelic looking painting from 1966. And it's not my favorite painting, but it is interesting. It is an interesting painting here on this novel, on this hardback. but the ISFDB, the Internet Speculative Fiction Database, which is usually a great resource for finding out who did the covers to whatever particular edition of book you're looking at, they have this wrong. They have the wrong cover on the 1966 edition, and they miscredit who did the cover on that original edition, and they have this cover on like a 1988 edition, and that is not correct. So the ISFDB, the cover art information on it is actually wrong when it comes to this novel. But this is a great book. I do highly recommend this book. If you like Roger Zelazny and science fiction in general, that's a good one. So from there, I found this also up in Madison, Wisconsin, An Alien Heat by Michael Moorcock. This is also a first printing, but this is a book club edition here. And this is, who put this out? Okay, it is Harper and Row of New York publishers that put this book out here. It is book one in the Dancers at the End of Time trilogy. And in fact, I think Michael Moorcock went on. I think there's actually a total of 6 books in the Dancers at the End of Time. And this is book one. I've finished this book. This is the last book that I read. I am going to do a full video on it. That's going to be my next book review. It's going to be on Alien Heat. This is an interesting story here by Michael Moorcock, a far future science fiction story that kicks off that series, Dancers at the End of Time. So look forward to that review. That's going to be my next review coming up. An Alien Heat by Michael Moorcock. And let me see if it credits who did that cover. I'm guessing they probably did not. No, it does not credit the cover artist. I will go on to ISFDB and I'll see who did the cover art here. That always irritates me when the publishers don't credit the artist, and I'll put him up here on the screen, him or her, whoever the case may be. But Alien Heat by Michael Moorcock, that was a nice find. I like that in a first edition book club edition there. So the next 4 books were actually part of a mail haul that was sent to me by Nick over at the Book Graveyard. He runs a fantastic booktube channel that centers on men's adventure. It's men's adventure centric. And he and Tim from Secret Fire Books, who also has a fantastic channel. I'll link both their channels down below. Highly recommend you guys go over and check them out if you haven't already. They picked me up a couple of things at Pulp Fest, and Nick mailed them all to me here. So I've got 3 books from Tim, and I've got 1 book from Nick. And I'm going to start off with Tim's books here. The first one is Tros of Samothrace by Talbot Mundy, an epic adventure. And then you have Robert E. Howard in big block letters up there. And again, you might think that this is one of those trick novels that's trying to get you to believe it was written by Robert E. Howard, just like that Alien Speedway Roger Zelazny paperback earlier. But it says heroic fantasy in the tradition of Robert E. Howard. So you have to read closely. But it looks like it's a Viking epic, and it looks very interesting. It is volume 1 of Lud of London. So that sounds pretty interesting. I'm guessing Lud of London is going to be London, England with the Vikings, but we'll have to see how that goes. That was the first book. Oh, and I think, yep, there was an artifact that came in this book. It's a little bookmark from the book dealer. The Book Dealer and Reviews. Rare books, vintage paperback, science fiction, fantasy, esoteric, and classics. I'm guessing that is a pretty old bookmark. Actually, maybe not, because it's got that little scan dot on the back, so this might not be as old as it looks. But just the art there is in a definite 1970s fashion. So that was kind of cool. That's book number 1. Book number 2 is Alistair MacLean's author of Athabasca and River of Death. And the back of this book does sound very interesting. I may have to read this men's adventure here. Alistair MacLean, he used to be all over the bookstores. You would go into the old bookstores, the old newsstands, and Alistair MacLean had these adventure novels everywhere. It seemed like he was turning out about 1 a month. And this one says, in the last desperate hours of Hitler's Reich, 2 SS officers plot to escape to South America with a fortune in stolen loot. But only one succeeds. He builds a multi-million-dollar empire in Brazil, and no one knows his Nazi past, except a stranger named Hamilton, a stranger whose wife the German had killed. So it's going to be a novel of revenge. It sounds interesting. Alistair MacLean is an excellent author, and I will check this one out. Thank you, Tim, for that. And this one also came with a little bookmark artifact. It's got a little Burroughs bibliophiles in it. Nice little piece of ephemera stuck in there. That was book number 2 from Tim. And then book number 3 is an ace double with Ring Around the Sun by Clifford D. Simak on one side of the ace double. And then on the other, you have The Cosmic Manhunt by L. Sprague de Camp. L. Sprague de Camp, who has come up often here and frequently on the channel. And most recently on the channel, I talked about L. Sprague de Camp in my last video, Trail of the Bloodstained God. But here he is doing an original story by L. Sprague de Camp, a science fiction story. And you've just got an epic 1950s painting there on the front for that cover. Just a classic bad girl 1950s painting. Love that painting there. Great stuff. So thank you to Tim. And then the last book here is by Nick. And this is one of the assignment books. This is Assignment Amazon Queen by Edward S. Arrows. And it is the new Sam Durrell adventure. So I'm going to have to take a little foray here into men's adventure sometime soon here on the channel, and maybe just do like a men's adventure month and read through some of these books and then give you guys my thoughts on them here. But thank you to Nick, and thank you to Tim. And don't forget to go down below and click on the links and check out their channels. All right, so that brings us to our last 2 books here. And the first one is a very interesting find, a very unusual find. This came out of a local bookstore, out of a Half Price Books right here in Central Ohio. And it is a photo novel from 1978 of J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, the Bakshi film from 1978. And these are these photo novels. These photo novels were big back in the 1970s, the late 1970s and the early 80s. And what they would do is they would take movies and they would take TV shows and they would take screenshots directly out of those movies and those shows, put them into these books here, and then put word balloons and caption balloons in here so you could read the movies or read your favorite TV shows. And in the 1980s, the mid-1980s, they died out. And the reason they died out is because technology caught up with them and VCRs came out. And why would you look at a book of the movie when you could just go out and get a VCR tape, slap it in, and actually watch the movie? But prior to the VCR coming out, this was your handheld electronic device. This was your access to the internet, YouTube version of your movie or your VCR tape. And this is Ralph Bakshi's. Now this book is really cool. It's a thin book here, but despite being this thin, it is as heavy as 3 normal paperbacks. It weighs the same. Whoop, dropped it there. It weighs the same as these 3 paperbacks. And the reason it's so heavy is because it has to have that heavy photo stock print, paper stock, in order to take the high gloss images straight out of the movie Lord of the Rings. And it gives it sort of a really neat feel to it. Here's your introduction page. And then you get your setup to the novel Lord of the Rings. And then it goes through the whole Ralph Bakshi movie. From an unexpected visit all the way to the end of his Bakshi film, which ended with the 2 towers. And it's just direct screen prints right off of the celluloid of the film, put right into the book, telling the story with thought balloons and word captions. And it's really just a wonderful little thing. And they made a bunch of these. They made a bunch of these for a bunch of movies. Battlestar Galactica, I think they did the Hulk TV show, like a lot of those animated cartoons that were back then, and just a ton of movies. I'll try to put up a list of some of the more common ones here, run them up on the screen. But you get the whole movie right up to the end. There you go with the end shot. Good stuff, really unusual. I've not seen one of these before. If you guys are familiar with photo novels, let me know about it down in the comments section. I was really happy to find that. And then the final book that we've got here for this book haul is we have the Elric Saga Part 2. Now I found the Elric Saga Part 1 years ago. I bought it along with Dune, if I remember correctly, when I found that Dune hardback, first printing, book club edition, in a bookstore, and I bought that for $8, not knowing that it was a first edition. Again, it's a book club first edition, but still, it's pretty cool. And I finally found Elric Saga Part 2. I have Elric Saga Part 1. I've read the book cover to cover. I've started reading this one as well. These are hard to find in the wild. They're easy to find out on eBay. You can pick these up fairly cheap. Really nice cover there by Robert Gould, although I think he hit it out of the park with his cover on Elric Saga Part 1. And I'm really excited to try to read through this one and finish this, and then hopefully I can find Elric Saga Part 3. There you get the masked face of Elric, the albino in the front, and then you got the black blade on the back. Very nice stuff. So that was a nice addition here. I've got 2 of the 3 that I found out in the wild, and I'm just hunting for book 3. Book 3, Part 3 of the Elric Saga, I think is the hardest to find. Even on eBay, there are much fewer of them, and they're much more expensive on eBay to pick that one up. But hopefully that's one of my Grail Quest books that I can find out here at some point. And if I do, I certainly will bring that one to you guys here on the channel. But that's it. That's my book haul. Let me know what you think about those books. If you've found any exciting books yourself, let me know about them down in the comment section below as well. And with that, I'm going to wrap this one up and say take care, be safe, and I will catch you guys next time.